Yes, I have. Ready, face?
7:30 a.m. here in Da Nang, Vietnam. Getting a little trafficy, but nothing as bad as Ho Chi Minh or Hanoi yet. I want to talk to you today about the Trump administration demanding that Zelenskyy wear a suit before their meeting.
President Zelenskyy wore a suit to the White House today, which might not seem like it's the biggest deal, but actually it's not all that inconsequential when you're talking about the relationship between President Trump and President Zelenskyy.
The Ukrainian leader came dressed in a suit, not his usual fatigues, after he was attacked for his attire the last time.
You look fabulous in that suit.
It should be obvious to anybody who's watching this channel by now the reason why the Trump administration is forcing Zelenskyy to wear a suit. Quite simply, it's a distraction. They don't want us thinking about Epstein. They don't want us thinking about all of the damage that they're doing to the fabric of our society, to immigrants that are being rounded up and thrown in concentration camps. They don't want us thinking about these things. So they come out with these distracting spectacles like forcing Zelenskyy to wear a suit.
Remember, when he showed up to the West Wing back in February, he was wearing the military uniform that he's usually wearing.
Most people with any political literacy or media literacy or awareness at all are probably aware of the fact that Steve Bannon and other fascists have formulated this flood the zone strategy.
In the first 100 days, every day we're going to be hitting with either 3 executive orders or whatever. Number one is that the Democratic Party's shattered. They don't know if they're coming or going, right? They got one group that's doing identity politics, another group that's the Clinton centrist. I said, we've broken them right now. They have no idea. They're going to have their own internal civil war, right? They'll keep them occupied for a while. So what we've got to do is just hit, and keep it. It's momentum. The opposition party is the media. And the media can only, because they're dumb and they're lazy, they can only focus on one thing at a time. And the one thing they'll mainly focus on is either they do the horse race, or once the horse race, who's in, who's out. Right. It's like the high school, who are the cool kids in the cafeteria, right? Because it's easy. It's the reason they do the horse race stuff all the time, right? And they won't do the basic, what are the core things that are going on in the country? I said, all we have to do is flood the zone. Every day we hit them with 3 things. They'll bite on one, and we'll get all of our stuff done. Bang, bang, bang. These guys will never be able to recover. But we got to start with muzzle velocity. So it's got to start, and it's got to hammer. It's got to muzzle velocity.
I think the efficacy of this kind of strategy is starting to wear off with a lot of the population. For instance, the Epstein situation shows that there are a lot of people now who are not as willing to just go along with the media narratives that are being spun, and that are keeping their eye on the ball more than they used to. It hasn't reached a critical mass level yet to where it's going to cause any kind of danger or threat to the current administration. And there are definitely enough shitlibs who are buying into this circus and focusing on the Zelenskyy situation and allowing themselves to be distracted.
Do you guys remember a few months back when Brian Glenn said, "Zelenskyy, why aren't you wearing a suit?"
Why don't you wear a suit?
As Zelenskyy landed in Washington, D.C., the Trump regime demanded that Zelenskyy wear a suit.
This is so disrespectful and disgusting. You can tell Marco Rubio is mortified. J.D. Vance is sitting there smiling. Marco Rubio hates this. J.D. Vance loves this.
Zelenskyy and Trump talked again today, and Zelenskyy wore a suit.
The reason why Zelenskyy didn't wear a suit is because he's standing in solidarity with his soldiers.
They said, you're not coming to the White House unless you wear a suit.
But what happened today was amazing. Zelenskyy sees Brian Glenn and decides to poke back at him.
He was the one that went at Zelenskyy for not wearing a suit last time.
Zelenskyy makes a joke at Brian Glenn and says, "You're wearing the same suit that you were wearing before." And if you notice, the entire room laughs. Marco Rubio, who was mortified last time, laughs. J.D. Vance is now laughing at Brian Glenn.
He was happy. No, Zelenskyy didn't wear a tie.
Trump even leans over and says, "Good one, Zelenskyy." Honestly, it was a really good joke from Zelenskyy.
So I was kind of surprised he didn't go lean in on that, but I guess he was just happy to see the collar and the jacket.
But I think people now are suffering enough and sick enough of the way things are that they are looking for alternative voices. They're looking for narratives that will make their lives make sense, because things just aren't adding up the way that they used to when I was much younger. At least for, middle-class white folks, these stories, maybe they weren't satisfying, but they were distracting enough to keep us from asking more important questions. But I just think that that is becoming less and less the case. The fact that social media and these alternative platforms, and by the way, a lot of them are not actually alternative, a lot of them actually have big money behind them, but these platforms and personas that present themselves as independent are starting to outperform the traditional media. Not starting to, they've been outperforming them for quite a long time. It shows that people are hungry for more legitimate information and they're tired of these distractions. At least a lot of people are. And this is both an opportunity and a threat. And so far, it's been more of a threat than an opportunity. And that's because the fascists and a lot of crypto fascists and a lot of weird rad lib voices are rising to the top. And that's no surprise because, again, they have more funding. It's been revealed that a lot of fascists have been getting dark money from Russia, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. The Koch brothers and all kinds of other billionaires are pouring money into these shady sort of semi-quasi-pseudo-independent media outlets. So that makes it a lot harder for actual legitimate working class media outlets to get their voices heard. But the good news is there's an appetite now for our version of the story, for the explanations which communism provides about why society is unraveling right now, that there just hasn't been in decades previous. I think going through all of this trauma together, COVID, the Black Lives Matter uprising and the incredibly violent repression of that uprising, now seeing all of our neighbors and family members who are immigrants being put in such danger, into such terrible circumstances, these all have a radicalizing effect and a cumulatively radicalizing effect. The social psychology is developing rapidly, but unfortunately, the class consciousness aspect of social consciousness is lagging behind. So that's why we need people like you going out and explaining to friends, family, coworkers, people who are afraid, people who are pissed off, explaining it to them in terms that they'll be able to understand. A common criticism that we get here at NonCompete in our comments quite often is that we use too much jargon and, we don't make our content consumable enough. We don't make it easy enough for the masses. I do try really hard to make our content consumable for the masses, but I also realize that the audience that we've developed over time, y'all are by and large people who are ahead of the curve. You are people who see things more clearly than most workers in the West at this point. And that's a double-edged sword for me as a content creator to be making content for people like you, because I do want to reach the masses. Believe me, I would love to have more ordinary working class people who've never been exposed to these ideas before consume my content as their gateway into communism. But being realistic, we only have less than 150,000 subscribers. We are not super favored by the algorithm, and I think that's a major understatement. We're not the ones that are going to be going out and radicalizing the masses in the millions and millions. For that to happen, you who are watching this right now have to get out there and organize, build organization, communicate, learn how to make propaganda yourself in a way that the people in your local material conditions will respond to it. I could never make a piece of propaganda that's going to reach the people that work with you or that live near you as well as you could, because you understand your material conditions far better than I could. And the more you learn theory and history and the ways in which people successfully built revolution in the past, the more effective your work will be. This is a mass movement. It's a class movement. What I'm trying to do is just give you some of the tools and some of the theory that I've learned from living here in Vietnam and talking to Vietnamese communists, that I've learned from talking to hundreds of activists all around the world in my interviews, and from doing a little bit of activism myself, yes, and trying to package that all up so that, it could be food for thought for you. And that's all I can really offer. The real revolution is going to come from you. It's going to come from the masses. It's going to come from workers coming together and organizing wherever you are. I think a lot of content creators are under the illusion that they are the revolution, and that's a real problem. I certainly hope that we've never implied that in any of the work that we've done. The TLDR here is that people are tired of these distractions. People don't want to talk about Zelenskyy wearing a suit anymore. A lot of people don't. A lot of people want solutions. A lot of people want a path forward. Communism can provide that, but there's so much work to do on the ground level in building class consciousness, and that's where we really need you. You have to do more than just consume political content. You have to change the world. It's like Marx said in the quote that I'm about to butcher: the previous philosophers have only attempted to explain the world. The point is to change it. And you do have the power to change the world. As an individual, you're very weak. I'm very weak. But together as a class, we become very powerful. So keep your eye on the ball. Don't let people get distracted by the Zelenskyy suit situation. Keep people talking about how the Epstein case is just an extraordinary abortion of justice and abuse of power by the ruling capitalist class. Keep talking about the exploitation that happens in your workplace. Keep talking about the rapidly deteriorating material conditions of American workers if you're in the USA where I'm from, or wherever you are. Talk about the conditions where you are in a way that people will respond to them, in a way that will resonate with them. Your voice really matters. It really matters. Your actions really matter. You can impact the world. That is the first lesson of Marxism, of communism. You can change the world. Stay sharp, stay focused, keep fighting. Solidarity. We'll see you next time. The little finger pointing in was too much, wasn't it? This is why you're going to do a better job at making propaganda than me.
Zelenskyy makes a joke at Brian Glenn and says, "You're wearing the same suit that you were wearing before." And if you notice, the entire room laughs.